Creak.
Welcome to your awakening. Please take calm as your reality is adjusted.
Welcome to your creaky crackly audio. Please stay calm until we disable this functionality, and you have to figure out a better way of doing it, and maybe do it in a more controllable fashion. Oh, that gives me the message. Hangouts on Air is live. This Hangout on Air is going away on August the 1st. Thank you for reminding me, Google. And I don't think it's referring to this particular instance of the Hangout. This Hangout is not going to be going on until August the 1st. But the actual functionality of the Hangout system is going to end on August the 1st. I'll get rid of that bloody window. Thank you. And find that one. There we are. Hey, right. Have I muted everything? Yeah, I think so. Have I muted myself? Hopefully not. Let me know if you can't hear me, if you can see my face and I'm pulling stupid faces and you can't hear anything, but nobody's saying not. So I guess you can now. Consider the chat room. Welcome, greetings, salutations, hello. Welcome back again, once again, to another Moon Day edition, the 8th of July, 8th of the 7th, 2019, this star date. Hello to everyone in the chat room. Let's a quick hello. Gas Mask, hello. And Apfel Charlotte. I take it that's meant to be Apple Charlotte. Hello. And Nika Chief, hello. Hello. Gary, I know you're in the room. And Dave Iron, hello. Okay, you can see and hear us good. That's the main thing. Hearing is the main thing. The seeing so much is, just because it's got a camera. And the whole reason why I started doing the face to camera thing years ago was because it seemed that for many people, they had a difficulty in just listening to audio. They needed to see some kind of visual content. And also to emphasize the fact that it is just me, Guy, talking on a video. It's not some weird creation in software or in a recording studio somewhere, that's been put together for projecting out at you. No, it's just me, some guy sat in front of a video camera talking. And it helps as well for the communication effect of being able to see body language and facial expressions, all that kind of good stuff, because that helps in people's comprehension and their ability to be able to connect with the stuff you're talking about, rather than getting that glazed eye mental shutdown effect, where they just sit back and they wake up or come to their senses however long later, an hour later. What was I just listening to? What were we watching? It's that kind of hypnotizing effect that you get off the old style media. Now you'd get visual bamboozlement to keep you distracted, to make that visual element more important than anything else, so that the other parts of your mind, the other parts of your cognitive abilities, not necessarily shut down, but certainly relax in their awareness, so you just succumb to that kind of hypnotizing effect of the flashing lights. Yeah, anyway, get to the point. Stop ruffling word salad. I will mention what I put in the subtitle this week, and I'll try and get into why I wanted to point at that stuff. But there's been a few things over the week that doesn't seem to have been, or certainly to me anyway, and I've had somewhat of a different perspective on things this week because I've been somewhere else dog sitting again. So I spent most of my week not doing a lot of internet stuff. Did mean I got the chance to sit in the garden and read for a bit, which was cool. I'll mention that later. But anyway, yeah, what did I put in the subtitle this week? Repeated ineptness of infantile insecurities. That might seem like word salad, but it's not. And it's, yeah, there's a few layers of meaning in that, which I'll get to. And no more heroes anymore. No more heroes anymore. No more heroes anymore. Yeah, I was looking at me Brucey picture because I talked about this the other week. And it just struck me when I saw the news doing the rounds, people talking about the gay gnomes, the pride representation with the rainbow gnome and all this kind of stuff. And I said, oh man. And just that clicked in my head of gnome or heroes anymore. No more heroes anymore. And it just seemed very, very appropriate, apropos, as they say. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me, but I found it rather ironically amusing, unfortunately amusing, because as I've ranted about recently, the agenda that is promoting and insisting that this new attitude, supposedly new attitude to sexuality and gender, is not for the benefit even of those people that it is appealing to. In other words, the demographic of people who are inclined to that kind of life choice, whatever you want to call it, or they feel that that is them, they identify as that. The real narrative, the real propaganda manipulation doesn't really give a fuck about them other than the fact that they are a numerical resource. They are a statistic that can be used to manipulate society as a whole at large. But as to them really caring about the health and well-being and all that kind of stuff, all that good stuff that you would hope for of the individuals that they're trying to draw under their banner, no, they couldn't care. Why would they care? They want to see the end of them. They're inviting them to join in with an attitude, a trend, a lifestyle, a life choice, whatever you want to call it, a brand that guarantees ends with them. Pretty much guarantees, maybe I should say, because as I mentioned last week and whatever, the intervention of technology means that even homosexual people can create children via technology. But you remove the technology or have somebody hovering over it, ready to remove your access to that technology if you break the rules, or if you say something naughty, or if you don't do what they tell you to when they tell you to do it, then in other words, yeah, your entirety of lineage, your species ends with you and your choice to not procreate naturally, or to make use of that natural ability. Maybe in the future, in that potential future of everybody being gay, which they seem to, like the idea of for some weird reason. But in that potential future of everyone being gay, maybe some gay people will end up having to come to some kind of agreement with each other that they procreate just for the sake of procreation, because otherwise they will all die out within one generation. But anyway, digressing a lot on stuff I've ranted about a fair bit recently because of it being Pride Month and all that stuff. But the gay gnomes, the rainbow gnomes, the pride gnomes, when that cropped up in the media, I just thought, oh, yeah, okay. There's the corporation moving in, thinking, what else can we sell them that we can stamp this new brand logo onto, this rainbow logo that we're using as a vehicle to sell them tat, to sell them more crap that is meaningless in their lives. What else can we put? Well, what's one of the most meaningless, useless things ever invented? I know, garden furniture. Yeah, things like gnomes. What is a gnome? it's nothing but a social statement. It's a way of you putting something into your garden that you want other people to see. Really, that's what it comes down to. You might get personal enjoyment out of it as well, but really the whole point of decorating your garden is that you want other people to see what you've done. So in the same way as with any other fashion object, it's about the image you're portraying to everybody else. So you want people to see it. It's a fashion decoration item that makes a social statement or a personal statement about you, your choices, your lifestyle, etc., etc. Perfect bit of tat to stick yet again a rainbow on and start selling that to this new demographic that are. I know I'm stereotyping a bit, and I'll add here the usual caveat of I'm not saying this is true for everybody, blah, 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 all the usual caveat shit. A demographic of people that seems to react more readily than most other groupings out there, most other demographics, they react more readily to that selling of an illusion, the vanity connection, that you want to portray yourself in this fashion to the rest of the world. You are primarily concerned with what the rest of the world thinks of you and what you look like, how you dress, how you live, how you do your hair. Perfect little vehicle to stick yet again another price tag on. And so here's a bit of tat with a rainbow on it. And somebody start a company selling dog turds with a rainbow stuck in them, a little rainbow flag stuck in them. It's got a rainbow on it. You want to buy it? It's a pride turd. You want to buy it? People will buy anything that makes them feel connected to an emotion or an experience or a tribe, a demographic, a grouping, an ideal. This is what makes up primarily all modern marketing. It's about selling an emotion or an experience. That's how you hook people in to your brand, your new brand label, whatever it is you're trying to sell. I was listening to Jeff C talking about the Oreo things, biscuits. I don't want to call them cookies because they're not cookies. I've always wondered about this for years, even since I was a kid, when we used to get the kind of TV advertising that would include a bit of Americana in it, or you get the dramas and general TV shows that include that element of Americana in, where they reference cookies and milk, a glass of milk and cookies. And what cookies is it? Oh, it's Oreos. And so I always wondered, what is this shit? What are these things that are called this particular brand name that they seem to be constantly stereotypically associating with Americana, with the American culture? So that to me doesn't look like a cookie. That looks like, over here in the UK, we've got things like custard creams and bourbon biscuits, which is just like two biscuits with this fondant filling in between. It's the same kind of thing. But they insist that they're cookies, and there's a whole brand machine behind it, similar to other big brand commercial outlets like Coca-Cola and Pepsi and stuff like that. There's a lot of money pushed into that brand, and it generates a lot of money. So, I weren't surprised that they jumped on the brand wagon. I'll come up with a new kind of phrase or terminology. I call it the brand wagon, because it's that bandwagon vehicle that is utilizing the energy within a group of people or a demographic of people, and they're riding it for commercial reasons to sell you a product. So they encapsulate that experience or emotion or that aspiration to a lifestyle or an environment that you want to be in. Like you buy this thing and everybody will love you. You use this particular deodorant and all the women will want to be with you. All that kind of sales trickery, psychological manipulation. But a brand wagon means they go, oh yeah, look at all the money over there that's been spent on that by that demographic. They'll buy anything with a rainbow stamped on it. We got to get in on that. That's a brand wagon. We could stick our brand in there. We do something that connects us to this new energy, and ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. So they made a bunch of their particular biscuits, whatever you want, their studge, their vehicles of chemical introduction to your body, or introducing chemicals to your body. And they had a particular run of ones that included gender pronouns, supposedly. But from what I saw, like the articles Jeff was referencing, the details in there, it seemed like they'd only included 3, basically, and it was his and hers and then they. So not exactly that costly for them to produce. It weren't like they were trying to account for the the spectrum of selections for gender pronouns that there are now, but instead they went for those 3 because that's the main core of the marketing demographic that they can sell to. So if anything, I would have thought that the supposed people who make up that demographic, the pride people, the LGBT people, would have looked at this cynically and said, hang on, why haven't you included so-and-so grouping onto your brand biscuit choices? No, it was quite limited. But it certainly makes a very good example of that technique that was maybe not so much pioneered, but certainly solidified, amalgamated and solidified by Edward Bernays and his methods of psychological manipulation for what was supposedly marketing reasons. But really, those manipulations can be applied to whatever you're trying to convince people of. So it includes political propaganda, agenda narratives, but the techniques that work very well for hooking people in and recruiting people into your pyramid scheme, let's call it that, because it is very similar to a pyramid scheme. You get people to adopt a particular brand, and you end up with this effect that they refer to as brand loyalty, which basically means people become, they adopt your brand and the products that it encompasses into their lives like a member of the family. And that's how it can become. People can take it to extremes, but in general, people have things like, are you a so-and-so house? In other words, in your house, do you buy particular brand names? I don't want to list a load of names out because it just becomes like an example of native marketing, But I'm sure you've had that kind of experience. It's like, as a coffee drinker, and I've drunk coffee most of my life, and I've got particular brands that I prefer and tastes that I prefer. And it is sort of like the effect of, you go to somebody's house and they've got a particular brand of coffee, and you're like, oh, you drink that stuff. Why don't you drink so-and-so? Or this is a so-and-so kind of house. We only drink this particular brand in here. That kind of brand loyalty becomes very tribalistic and gives people a sense of belonging that they will want to keep, even if they find out or they discover that the particular brand, the product that their brand is actually selling them, is not something that they really want anymore, or that they like anymore, or that is actually good at what it's supposed to do. They might figure out that the particular product they've been buying that has that brand on actually doesn't work very well. And there are better versions by other companies, but they want this one just because it's got the brand name on it. Shoes and trainers and stuff like that. I'm sure to me, it seems like a modern phenomenon, but it's connected into fashion and stuff like that. But I was seeing this through my lifetime, and now I know people who collect trainers, not so much in a sense of collecting things as I used to know what collecting meant, or collectibles. People would collect things because they had a deep interest in the stories of the items, and those kind of connections. But no, this was just purely so that they can say, I've got X amount of so-and-so brand products. Some of them they buy because they believe in a kind of Wall Street marketing sense that the value of that particular item will go up in time. So they buy them as like an investment. But most of it is just so they can say, like, oh yeah, in my wardrobe, I've got so-and-so labels. Yeah? You define yourself by the labels of consumer goods that you wear. And I've gone, I've ranted around this point a fair bit. I've belabored it a bit, but from the gay gnomes point of view, let's say gay gnomes, the rainbow gnomes point of view, that was where it just struck me as being unfortunately ironic. I can giggle at it in a way, but really it's depressing the indicator that represents of this is how far this has become, or how far this has gone to now, where it is any old piece of fashion tat can have this identifying mark stamped on it, and that gives it, in effect, a kind of socio-cultural reverence. It is suddenly afforded, not necessarily by everybody within society, certainly not, but certain groups now view it as being some kind of sanctified item. And that, to me, is indicative of the level of consumerism immersion that the society has descended into. People are no longer defining their cultures and their societies for themselves. They are being absolutely defined by these corporations that produce whatever it is that keeps the consumer cycle turning. Because it is a circular thing. They talk about sustainability, but their very system relies on that circle, keep going round. If you stop buying the products, the whole thing falls down. And they really, really, really don't want you to make that connection. They don't want you to consider the possibility of the power that you hold when you turn around and go, oh, I don't want to buy your crap, mate, just because it's got that stamp on it. It's got that sigil, that symbol imprinted on it. That doesn't connect with me. If I buy a whatever brand name pair of trainers, that isn't suddenly going to make me feel like I'm king of the world and I can achieve anything and whatever. They might make me feel like I can do some running. They might work and function well, but I can't actually buy a gnosis from you. I have to do that experience myself, and I could wear trainers from a different producer and get the same experience. The experience requires me, it doesn't require you. Connecting that third party into that. But anyway, yeah, I've ranted enough about that. If you want a rainbow gnome, go for it. Stop letting them steal definitions and redefining them into something that is then either an inversion or a reversal, or creates a caustic effect compared to its original definition. So I often prefer to say spectrum rather than rainbow when trying to imply, in the rhetoric I'm using, by trying to imply that there is a range of choices or selections or groupings. I prefer the word spectrum or spectra rather than saying rainbow. But I know often people say, like, oh, there's a rainbow of choices. In other words, there's a multiple selection, there's multiple possibilities. But words often get hijacked in that manner all the time, constantly get hijacked and appropriated in that manner by the system. And in a way, this sort of connects into the other stuff I wanted to mention. Repeated ineptness of infantile insecurities hurt people. And often our failures and our ineptness in whatever it is we're trying to do comes from insecurities that are founded on problems that can go back to our childhood. and often revert us mentally or spiritually back to that state of the infant being reliant on external forces, or subject to external forces. I talked before recently, a couple of weeks ago, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, about that effect of, I think it was on the one where I was talking about if to truly defeat your enemy, raise their children. And that natural effect that, certainly for human beings anyway, for mankind, our progeny, our children are born in a completely vulnerable state, almost completely vulnerable. They can't exactly fend for themselves. They can't feed for themselves. All that kind of expectation included in that they need external help to get through the early period of their development until they can start running around and grabbing stuff and eating it for themselves. So it's just making me think of the classic thing, the little hand reaching up to the kitchen counter to just grab whatever's there and test it out, see what it is. Is it edible? Oh, it's an onion. And you get that image on the face of the first time a child ever tries an onion or a lemon or something like that. But I'm making this reference deliberately at the moment because of the recent revelations out of the UK about the office of the US ambassador and the leaked documents claiming that Trump and his administration are inept and he suffers from insecurities and he's I'm not sure if they said actually infantile, or he's an imbecile, incapable, and suffering from insecurities. In other words, he's egotistical. So if you prod his ego, he tends to get bruised because he is his ego. He believes so much in his own ego that he is, or he thinks he is, his ego. So when you kick the ego, he feels it. That sounds a bit sort of separate. What's that word? Disassociative. But hopefully people get what I mean. He's a very egotistical person. So yeah, he's going to be insecure. That's why he gets upset when people talk about his tiny hands and his silly hair and stuff like that. Why he loves to pull the pouty face to make himself look strong. Just as he's telling everybody how much everybody loves it. Oh, it's so great. But this, it became pretty much a talking point circus in the UK media just after it came out, because every journalist, I should say, all the media talking heads, all the journalists were supposedly so concerned about how this would affect our relationship with America. And it's all like, right, okay, so your first reaction is that of a gimp. How will Master react now that Master has found out that I said he had a silly face? Oh no, Master's going to beat me terribly. That's the UK media, and I know they're like a lapdog media being manipulated by the system, the infrastructure that controls them. And certainly the BBC, it is the mouthpiece of the system here in the UK. Lapdog media reacting in a fashion where they're demonstrating the supposed concern that you're meant to have because this information has been leaked. Oh no, we've got to control what goes on online because look what kind of information is leaked. Our allies could end up disliking us because it turns out that we think they're all inept imbeciles who are not capable of doing anything. The charade it's like a double bluff charade of them playing the card of we've got to be so concerned about the Anglo-American alliance, whereas really there is no potential of concern in that other than on a superficial political party level. In other words, which particular political party is going to be in power next, supposedly in power. I'm saying supposedly a lot tonight. maybe. Supposedly it's a lot anyway. But whoever's in power, the infrastructure of government is still there carrying on. This is part of their shenanigans. Their game playing in the media to manipulate the public and what they should be concerned about. Meanwhile, in other news events, there's other shit going on around the world, but oh no, you got to worry about the fact that some UK's ambassador called Trump inept. Do you think that the other countries don't do the same thing? Are you infantile in your naivety such that you think governments of other countries don't have their ambassadors here in the UK writing reports that they want to be honest, in a very loose sense of the word, but they want the blunt, hard facts and details and even gossip about the people in this country from their ambassadors and their staff that are here? Of course they do. They all do it. It's all about getting information and the movement of that information, the control of those little chunks of knowledge that could potentially be used as leverage against each other. So of course they do. So maybe the concern should be more that this UK ambassador's documents were leaked. How did the leak occur? Where is this coming from? Is this just because of the shit going on the internet? Has he been hacked? Are they going to start talking about increasing security on the internet? And why is this story so important? If it is important at all. Or is it just yet more distraction of all the other things that are going on at the moment? Is the relationship between America and the UK in jeopardy when we're both selling weapons to places like Saudi Arabia and at the same time turning a blind eye to other certain stuff going on around the world? But supposedly, how's it going to affect our relationship? Yeah, right. And that's why I felt I wanted to put it in that kind of fashion, in the wording, in the way I put it in the sentence, the ineptness of infantile insecurities, because just that alone describes what it is. Again, irony. The ineptness of infantile insecurities, the lapdog media reaction using an infantile presumption that because one side called the other side inept, that the interlacing corporatism of the way the world currently works is suddenly going to be affected. Yeah. No, go away. Go forth and multiply. And the reason I put repeated is because this is a repeat of something they do every so often, where they stir the pot a little bit on that Anglo-American alliance thing. And synchronistically for me anyway, I've had a lot of synchronicities recently. I'll explain another one that I had last week, or yesterday actually. They play this card every so often because here in the UK, they try to give most of the public, they put out this general attitude that the UK is subordinate to the USA, and that whatever the USA decides to do, because they're the police of the world, they're the military leader of the world and all this kind of shit that we're supposed to believe. But, whatever they do, we're sort of subordinate. We're like Tony Blair being the little poodle to Bush, when baby Bush was in power. They keep reminding us of that. They keep feeding that narrative. And on the opposite side of the coin, on the other side of the pond, in the USA, they feed this constant narrative of, it's the old world power in the UK that rules the USA. If they make decisions over there, it's going to affect us here. Whatever happens over there is going to come over here soon enough. And they tell each side of the public that opposing storyline. We're subordinate to whatever they do. And the other side, we're subordinate to whatever they do. Don't look at this hand, folks. Look at this hand. Don't look at this hand. Look at this hand. Look at this hand. Meanwhile, in the background, the governmental infrastructure is still churning. The global agendas and narratives are still being pushed. Things like Agenda 21, etc. I know I've banged on a lot about that kind of stuff. So the repeated is partly for that reason, because this is a similar kind of narrative that they put out before. You know, get concerned that America might not be our friends anymore. But also recently I've seen an increase. I've seen it before in the past, but I've seen an increase of it more recently. And I know it's been several years at least that a lot of this kind of stuff on the internet has been building up, certainly in reference to YouTube and this kind of environment of the so-called truther movement, all that kind of label game. It's been going on for several years now. But recently, I've seen a lot more occurrence of the kind of commentary or rhetoric, often in comments and connected posts to videos and things like that. But this common recurrence of claiming that what we're talking about, what we're doing, is just a repeat. That one I saw today when I was listening to Mark Window's latest podcast, somebody posted a comment saying, "Oh, you're getting boring now, mate." It's basically saying the same thing as you're becoming repetitious. You're not saying anything new. You're not doing anything new. I saw it also under Max Egan's last broadcast. So, oh, this is all just a repeat. You're not saying anything new. Now, how shall I pick this apart? What was it Nietzsche said? Wisdom is like a vulture hovering over the battlefield, picking through the bones of the remains of the dead warriors. And yeah, I'm paraphrasing a lot, but if you're going to bother to post a comment that says you're boring now or you're repeating yourself, then you're a fool. Is the simple and nicest way I can think to put it. The simplest and nicest way to put it. If you feel that what you're looking at, listening to, you know, searching for on the YouTubes or whatever, is just repeating or is too boring and you're not actually interested in it, then why the fuck are you looking at it? There's a big red X button in the top right corner of the window. Just click that. Go and do something else. And at the same time, as you're doing that, if you're still listening to me now and you haven't already clicked off and gone to do something else, if you have, bye, see you later. As you're doing that, please consider that what you've just said by posting a comment like you're boring, you're repeating yourself, is demonstrated your selfishness in that you can't consider that there are however many more people that are tuning in or just discovering this for the first time even, or, you know, they've listened to it 1,000 times before, but they're still interested. So they want to listen to it for the 1,000th and first time. But you want your selfishness, your attitude to be out there up front to go, oh, you know, you're boring me now, mate. Do something else. Play another tune, monkey. I'm fed up of hearing that one. So please consider that, you know, if you feel that way, then why do you need to actually post that kind of commentary to state that? Where's the drive coming from that makes you feel that need to, I've got to tell this guy that I think he's boring now. You're asking for validation. You're asking for confirmation. And you're asking for everybody to look at you and to, you know, put your considerations first, a priori, your a priority. You know, it's whether you decide if it's boring or it's repeated. Yeah, could get into talking about criticism and things like that as well, but I don't want to digress too far off in other directions because that gets into a whole nother area of psychology and stuff like that. But my point is, recently I've seen a recurrence of attempts to use that kind of rhetoric as a reasoning or a justification to pressurize whoever it is you're looking at, the content creator that you're looking at, to do something else, or to do something that you want them to do. If you want them to do it, why don't you go and do it? That's more than just the kind of expectation of like, oh mate, I know you're interested in the quality of water, so can you pick particular brand of water bottle from the supermarket and do a test on it and tell us the results on that one, please, because I haven't seen you cover that particular brand before. That kind of request of content creation. Some content creators like that or need that kind of feedback to do what they're doing. But that's not what's going on here when people are using the rhetoric of, oh, you're just repeating yourself, you're boring now. That's much more invasively manipulative. I want you to do what I want now. That's what it's about, really. There's so much to choose from thanks to the internet. YouTube is just one particular platform. When you look around beyond that, the internet's got a whole lot to choose from. If you find something now boring, or you think it's repeating, you feel that you've seen it too many times now, the same thing, then go and do something else. You're shooting yourself in the foot by remaining where you are just so you can post a comment to demonstrate how upset you are. You're fed up of doing paint by numbers. Now you want to do potato prints. So, okay, yes, I can pat you on the head. We'll get the other items out the cupboard and you can do potato prints now if you want. Infantile, grow up. Make these choices for yourself and stop projecting onto the people on the screen. That's unhealthy for both parties involved. It's unhealthy for yourself, and it's unhealthy to encourage content creators to get entrapped into that kind of feedback loop, because that yet again is part of the problem of the commercialized marketing manipulation, like I was talking about earlier with brand marketing, creating that kind of entrapped symbiotic feedback. But I wanted to mention it because it's something that it comes up occasionally, but recently I've seen it quite often. And it's almost as if this is a deliberate tactic of like, oh, change the rhetoric you're using now, rather than, pestering them or harassing them by using this kind of argument. Use this argument instead. Make them feel like something's got to happen now. You must do something different now. It's very much kind of like a recruiting psychology. You must now put down your pen and pick up the sword now, because you've been repeatedly writing with that pen for so long. Now you've got to pick up a sword. Who's making that decision? It's my decision to decide whether I even listen to people saying that kind of rhetoric or using that kind of argument. You're repeating yourself. Am I? Oh, see ya. I'm repeatedly listening to you using the same argument that doesn't make any sense to me, so I'm off now, bye. These are just simple logical questions to ask about the purpose of the comments, the consistency in the sense of, are they logically sound in their claims and stuff like that, but also the psychological elements of, well, what is driving that kind of argument? Where is there even any justification to the argument, etc.? But at the same time, I wanted to repeat saying stuff that I've often said in the past on this kind of point. There are a lot of people come through this environment. I've seen the general audience that come and watch what I put out there and what I join in with when other people are doing stuff. I've seen that audience change a lot over the years. There's literally only a handful of people that I know, in terms of the fact that I've seen their content. They're not a silent viewer, they're not a lurker, they post occasionally and stuff like that, so I know they've been around. Yeah, there's literally a handful of people that have been around for a number of years. Mostly the general audience changes every so often, every so many months, or every couple of years at the most. The audience generally changes because people feel that, oh, yeah, I've seen enough of this now, I'm moving on. That's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just that that's where they're going now. You know, they might decide that they're bored of hearing me say certain stuff. That, oh, I'm bored of what you're doing now, mate. I'm just going to move on. They don't post me a comment, letting me know. So please validate me. I need you to respond to my angst. Yeah, they just get on with what they're doing. And for a long time, to me, that's the way this environment operates. You know, in general life, that's often how things operate. There are a handful of people that you will know for the majority of your life, and then a lot of the other people in your life will change over cycles, over so many, over time periods within your life. You'll have a handful of friends that you will know for most of your life, if not necessarily all your life. And then there'll be a grouping of other friends that will constantly transition. So again, this argument that, oh, you're just repeating stuff, is sort of like, well, what about the people behind you, mate? You've been stood here for a while, so you've heard me say the whole speech, and I've concluded the speech, and now I'm going back to the beginning. I'm starting again, the whole same speech. So you've got, hang on, you're repeating yourself now. What's going on? It's like, yes, mate, move on. Make a space, let somebody else come forward and have a listen. Yeah, move on down the bus. What another way of saying it. There is there's no justification in the argument that because some people or some messages that are being put out as content are now becoming too repetitious. In this environment, there is a constant movement and flow of people. And if anything, that works better. If it ends up with just being one lot of audience that appears, sits down and never leaves and never changes, that's stagnation. That means nobody's really progressing in any way at all. You're just stuck in this status quo. And for myself, I speak from my own point of view because I don't want to project or presume on other people's purpose or what their intentions are and whatever. I repeat certain things because I feel they are really, really important and an intrinsic part of helping people to help themselves. It's why I constantly talk about things like the trivium, critical thinking, the use of language, the use of psychological manipulation techniques, marketing. There's a few subjects and there's a few I could reel off, and there's particular points that I repeat more often than others. But to me, it's important because I have the assumption, or I work with the assumption, that once you, the audience, feel that you've got enough out of what I'm doing, you will make your own choices and you will be doing something else. I've never had the intention of trying to set something up where I've got this isolated clique of yes people who will just keep saying yes to me constantly for however long I make content and it never changes. To me, the point was, I'm a member of an audience just as much as you're a member of an audience. I look at other people's content and work. I read books and whatever, I'm looking at stuff just as much as other people are. And I claim the free will, right, and ability to make the choice for myself of when I feel I've seen enough of somebody's content, I will move on. If I feel I've got enough out of a subject matter, I'll move on. Doesn't mean I completely ignore that forevermore. It's just that, I've got enough for now, thank you. I'm going to move on, do something else for a bit. I might come back and visit again sometime. You know, if I find out something new or got other questions, I'll come back to that subject and visit it again. But I have the right and ability to decide if I've had enough of something and I'm going to move on. It's not up to somebody else to tell me when to do that. It's not up to somebody else to tell me when, hey, I've heard enough of you talking about that particular subject now. Can you drop it? Well, if you've had enough, turn off. You want to hear a particular subject? Do a quick search on the internet, find somebody who's talking about that subject, go and listen to it. Job done. You don't need my permission. If you're still thinking in that way, that is exactly a perfect example of the problem that the system utilizes to control you in the first place. So if you can break that problem in this environment, take that realization and apply it to the fuckers that claim they're in power. Hopefully that makes sense and explains, helps to explain why I have certain attitudes and over certain stuff like that. So if you come at me with nonsensical arguments, going, hey, you're treating yourself now, you've talked about this subject before, and it's like, yeah, and your point is you're bored with it. Oh yeah, okay, bye then, go on, off with you. Get back outside. go down the garden and play for a bit. Yeah, when you want to talk again about this subject, I'm going to be here talking about it more than likely. Yeah, eventually I'll get bored and move on to different stuff. The other things I wanted to mention, a couple of other things, and I'll try and explain the weird synchronicity I had yesterday. If you didn't know, yesterday was the anniversary of the 7/7 events in London. I heard Ian Al Crane mention it, and I was thinking, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's not exactly something that we reiterate often as when people talk about 9/11. The subject of 9/11 often gets repeated on the anniversary or around that time. But 7/7, certainly here in the UK even, doesn't often get mentioned again, doesn't get repeated. And I thought, yeah, okay, fair point. I'm going to mention that again. Yesterday was 7/7. When you want to talk about the use of psychological operations and manipulations of the public for political ends and agendas, and that included people dying for that kind of manipulation. And at the same time, it seemed synchronistic over this weekend because last week was episode 24. This week, episode 25. Last week, I mentioned about solar cycle 24 and potentially moving into solar cycle 25. And then during last week, there was a sunspot appeared on the face of the sun at a high latitude, which, according to the scientists and experts, that's one of the indicators that they use to mark the changing of the solar cycle. So potentially that sunspot could be an indicator that the sun is now beginning to switch into the next cycle. So it was sort of like, when I was hearing that over the week, I was thinking, well, yeah, I mentioned that on Monday, actually. It was quite synchronistic. It was a sensing it, could have smell it coming or something. Maybe it was making the hairs on the back of my neck tingle weird or something like that. I don't know. But then over the weekend, as I mentioned earlier, I was doggy sitting, and when I'm doing it, I get the opportunity to sit out in the garden, because obviously the dog then gets to run around for a bit and whatever, because I can't walk him. I'm not able to do that kind of stuff, but I can just sit and watch him and sit and read my book. And I'm sat reading, like I mentioned last week, I'm working my way through The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly Hall. So I'm sat there reading that, and I'm reading a bit about some of the different aspects of the gods that were worshipped by different cults in ancient times. It's in one of the beginning sections. And it was about the Serapis or Seraphis, and that particular cult, as they designate it. But I'm reading that, and I could, the birds chirping away, and the starlings are having a bit of a fight over the seed in the bird feeder and whatever. And out the corner of my eye, I catch this thing moving across the ground. I just thought it must have been a leaf blown in the wind. And then my mind triggers, like, hang on, there's no wind strong enough to be pushing a leaf around like that. So I looked over, and there's this little rat. It was only a baby one, a little small one, comes running right up to me, touches his nose on my shoe. Well, I'm on my trainer while I'm sat there reading this book. This is on the 7th of the 7th. And I just thought, what the hell? And he comes up, touches my shoe, and I'm like, what? It's a rat. And then he runs off again. And what's going on here? I'm sat here reading about, metaphysical stuff, and I've got all this sort of excited nature going on all of a sudden around me. And it's not like I'm out in some rural area where there's lots of nature, as in animals. No, I'm in an urban back garden. I'm in an urban back garden with a bird feeder. So yeah, we get a few birds coming in, but a whole bunch of starlings fighting over the seeds while rat comes out and in effect kisses my shoe and then runs off again. I'm just sat there like, what the hell's going on here? It's solar cycle 25. Maybe there is something about the energetic change. And I know I've talked a fair bit about the climate change and the bullshit of anthropogenic global warming and whatever. The sun cycles are affecting the weather here, so we're getting more extreme weather because of what's happening with the sun at the moment. And if it is changing from one cycle into the next, that means it will be starting on an up now again, because the end of the last cycle was signifying a down. Hopefully it'll be going on and up again, but potentially it might not be. I did mention this, I think, last week or the week before. If it keeps going downwards, that means we're going to be getting even more extreme weather. So hopefully it's going up, and maybe the strange synchronicities that I felt were happening over the weekend are indicative of that energy picking back up again. And one other connection with that I want to mention was the earthquakes in California. At the time that the sun, according to the supposed experts, is giving indications that it's beginning its next cycle, that's when we have these earthquakes happening in California, which, again, experts over there in the USA are saying could be a forewarning to a bigger one, the big one, possibly. So they put out official notifications of, check your preparedness plan, make sure you've got a plan, that kind of thing, like Dutch Sense has been talking about for years. If you live somewhere that is subject to earthquakes, then you should have an earthquake plan. It's just good sense to be prepared in that way. You're not being a prepper, you're not getting into any kind of weird or extreme lifestyle just because you're aware of that kind of stuff in your environment. Yes, I thought that was synchronistically interesting and possibly an indicator of the connection of that cycle change. I don't know, I've yet to hear some of the more scientific people talk about it or dig into that kind of possibility. That was pretty much it. I know it seems a bit disjointed from the rest of what I was talking about. This week seems to have been not so much any big genuine news. There was the stuff about Jeffrey Epstein, which is like, I don't know, we're getting to talking to that with Peter and Gary, but other than the things I've mentioned, and supposedly tonight they'll be announcing the Tory leader. I think it's tonight they make the announcement of who won. You want a cunt or a clown? That's your choice. Bojo or Jeremy Cunt. Maybe it's a cunty clown, a clowny cunt. Yeah, put a wig on it. A bit of white face paint, yeah. But anyway, other than some of those kind of events, there didn't seem to be any like major genuine news moving around. So it struck me somewhat as a holding pattern week, if that makes sense. there's the distraction kind of stuff, like the one I mentioned, the inept. He's inept. He's an imbecile. Whatever, the leaked documents and the stuff about the gnomes and the pride and stuff like that. It's like filler storyline that they're pumping into the media at the moment. That bothers me more than when there is genuine big news, because when they go quiet, that usually means it's leading up to something. But anyway, yeah, I've ranted enough. Join in whenever you want, man.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, with the quiet in the news, it gives you a chance to actually come up with some important news that's come up. And I watched this the other day. Adapt 2030. Yeah, he can be repetitive. He comes out with the same old thing all the time, yeah?
Yeah.
But yesterday, he recommended this video that went up on, is that 4th of June? My fucking eyes are going, yeah? 5th of June, okay? Yeah. So he came up with another video in which he mentioned this video. And you should go back and watch this video. It's all about how much corn has been planted very, very late this year in America and China. How much their corn harvest is going to be down. The estimates that they was going to lose so much, and then like 1 month on, it's been proven right, and it's a little bit worse than he thought in this video. It's the worst case scenario. They've been planting corn late. It was too wet when it went in. Then they had droughts over here. Yeah, it's going really wrong, and the corn price is just going to go through the ceiling. So if you've got, some spare money, listen to what this guy says, and you might be able to buy some corn futures and make a bit of money.
Isn't it all GMO corn though, Gary?
I think it is. If it's the stuff in America will be. China, I don't know. China probably makes their own glyphosate and GMO stuff, without telling anybody. But yeah, the American stuff will be. And South America as well. Brazil.
Don't eat corn.
Also, everyone's talking about the heat wave. In the last 2 weeks or so, they've been having a cold snap all the way across like Poland and Russia. So don't.
But my ironic piss take the other week of we all have 1 day of summer turned out to be fairly accurate.
I'll just tell you, Sunday night, there was thunder, and then the rain started. It was hammering it down, and I was begging outside the church, which is about as noisy as here. And I walked 5 steps to the thing to look up to see about the cow cover, and the rain stopped, and that was it, man. Oh Jesus, yeah. It was it. No, that was Saturday night. Sunday was even worse, yeah. But today the rain's come down really nice, yeah. It's freshened everything up. So that's pretty good. The other story I have, is this one here. It's do you remember the big fires they had just the other week? Yeah.
Okay. There's been a few of them recently.
Yeah, south of Tarragona. Yeah, all along the River Ebro. Well, one of the Centers for the Defence of the Republic, Community for the Defence of the Republic. These are the people that set up the referendum. Yeah, these are like self-organised anarchist groups. One of them wants 250,000 euros, minimum 50,000. And what they're going to do, they're going to redo the area. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, this is the money they get coming in, and these are the people that they're doing the thing from. If I go to the main page of this,
you mean they're replanting trees and stuff like that?
Yeah, they've set up a GoFundMe, to replant the trees. I mean, fucking amazing, yeah. And you can say what you like about the various groups, But this is their main site, and these are the plans that they have to. So this is what they want to do: replace irrigation hoses and pipes, recovery of agricultural land, reduction of impact on farmers and farmers' lives, activities related to reforestation, activities related to the dissemination of rural life models, as well as sustainability, territorial management and territorial balance. Well, coming from a group of self-organised anarchists, that is absolutely anti-Agenda 2030. Now the forest has all been burnt down, and they're basically saying, "Oh hell, why don't we go in there and take it over, yeah, and reforest it, and that'll give us some kind of claim on the land, perhaps." Yeah, so there is good news coming out, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I'm being cynical in the sense of even if it does create some kind of legitimate claim to the land, which I would agree with, because they're expending their labour on it, but the government wouldn't do that. They'd say, no, we thank you very much for doing your volunteering and doing that job for us, but no, the land still belongs to us.
Oh yeah, but you see, all the people living there are Catalans as well, and the farmers and that will welcome these people coming along. It'll be very difficult for the forestry agency to say, "Oh, you've got 20,000 trees and you want to plant them. No, you can't come on our piece of land." It's going to be very difficult. And another piece of positive news just before it started, yeah. I told everybody on Wednesday, I think, about this group of people campaigning against evictions. There was a Blackstone vulture speculator group who bought a building in the old city of Barcelona. It's a rundown building, pretty much, very old. But if you buy that building, knock it down and build a new one, you can literally quadruple your money. Well, they went and graffitied the home of the CEO in Barcelona, in Blackstone. The next day, Blackstone had contacted the mayor's office and said, "We'll sell you the building back at cost price." So, that kind of violence to property can get a big speculating vulture to capitulate, and give up their plans of making lots of money out of other people's misery. Because I was reading another story today about a building where people are getting thrown out, and these people have been trying to pay their rent for about the last 6 months, but the landlord just won't accept any money.
Yeah, because they're trying to force them out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's absolutely foul what they do, and so people are standing up to it.
Well, they do like they do here, where they'll raise the rent slightly when you're due to sign a new contract, and basically, if you don't agree, if you don't like it, then you got to get out. And they just keep moving it up another tenner, another tenner, another tenner. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in Barcelona, during Rajoy's time, the PP Franco-fascist guy, he changed the law so that the landlords can make contracts of 3 years. It used to be 5 years before that. So that now, 3 years, the speculators come in, they negotiate with the owner of the building. They literally sort of say to him, "Okay, we're going to buy your building," and he just stops renewing the contracts. So it's going to take about 3 years to empty the place. Now, what I think they do, because I saw a map once that somebody had prepared of all the buildings in the centre that had these narco pisos. Yeah, what that is an apartment building with empty apartments, and somehow drug dealers have gotten into one of the apartments and they're dealing drugs from there. But by strange coincidence, it was all the buildings owned by the speculators and the nastiest banks like Santander that had these narco pisos. And I would just love to have a word with some guy in the Mossad, on the top police, and say, "Look, you can go into people's phone records, look for the top guys in these banks, and look for them dealing with a local, real estate agent, somebody that sells flats. Did they give him a key and tell him to go and find some drug dealers and let them in?" Because it's too bloody obvious what's going on. Yeah, I mean these people.
Common tactic of slum landlords is move in bad neighbours.
Yeah, exactly. And why are they only in these banks? Yeah, if you're a drug dealer, you're just going to look for the first empty flat you can find. Yeah, but it was all the ones owned by the speculators and the bad banks.
It'd have to fit some other criteria as well. There's no point setting up where you've got no customers.
Oh yeah, it's all in the centre of the city where everything is like 300-400 yards from everywhere else. Yeah. It's this really dense area of the city which, when a building is brought and gentrified, it really goes up in price. Yeah, because it's got so many local connections. It's what they call it, locality.
In a similar connected fashion, because I wanted to mention this as well. Hang on, I'll sort out. Do a screen share. I saw this thanks to that guy Scott Webb. I have to keep checking his channel now. I don't know if anybody else gets this kind of effect, but now Google has decided it's not going to send me full notifications of what he's doing. It'll only send me selected. So if he puts up, say, 3 videos in a day, I might get a notification for one of those videos, even though I've done all the things you're supposed to do, like click the bell and all that kind of shit that, is supposed to get you all the notifications. No, it doesn't work fully anymore. But yeah, because I checked his channel and I saw he put up a video talking about this. Screen share the actual article. If I can get me Google working, get my Google working. Work for me, Google. Work. Hopefully you can see that. Screen share the Telegraph article. This is an article in the telegraph.co.uk. London has been tracked on the tube using Wi-Fi. Here's what that means for privacy and how to opt out. And Scott talks about, the big brother kind of connections in all of this, and then being able to track your Wi-Fi. And Telegraph obviously won't let me look at the whole article because I'm not a subscriber. I'm not a subscriber to the truth, as Dave used to put it. You're a premium subscriber to the truth. But the one other thing that struck me about this article is this comes out on the 8th of July, the day after the anniversary of 7/7, where if they'd had this kind of Wi-Fi tracking, they could have tracked the naughty terrorists before they were able to blow up the train. So we need this Wi-Fi tracking in all your tube stations and all your trains and all your buses, etc., etc., etc. And that struck me as, maybe not more important, but certainly just as important as the content of the fact that, yeah, they want to track your tech. But the day it comes out, 8th of July, and it's talking about London tubes. Yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning. And thanks again, Scott Webb.
Well, I think, Cookie, though, it's interesting that they put that sort of stuff out there, because even if there was going to be anything else happening anyway, they'd always have an excuse for why that shit didn't work. Yeah. There's plenty of ways to track those guys anyway. I mean, that was people going over the evidence of that, not evidence, or what happened on the day. There's plenty of stuff back in the day. I don't know if it's still up. Questioning the official narratives again.
Check out 7/7 Ripple Effect.
Yeah,
if it's still on YouTube. I don't know if it is. And there's an updated version of that as well that was released a couple of years ago, I think.
It's been a few, yeah.
And I'm not sure if his channel's still there, Tom Secker, if he's still there, with his own website still up and going. Tom Secker did a lot of really good in-depth coverage of the inquiry into 7/7 and a lot of the other evidence around that event. So if you're interested, if you don't know much about it and you're interested, you want to start looking into it, start with them. Ripple Effect, I think, is maybe a bit more of a rabbit hole effect for some people, because it makes connections to the bigger picture. Tom Secker sticks more to the details about the event itself. Yeah.
Was that UK critical thinker that you saw the other day? Because he's done an updated Ripple Effect. But
it might have been. I thought it came out, maybe 2 years ago. Somebody did an updated version of it, and it's sort of done the rounds.
Yeah, it could be. I saw it on Twitter, sort of on the anniversary. Yeah. I mean, other ways of tracking those guys, I'm not so sure, because they didn't do so well with Mendoza's, did they?
Menezes.
Menendez.
John Charles de Menezes, yeah.
I mean,
but he was on a list because of the job he did, being an electrician in the subway, in the tubes. He would have been on a list of people because he would have been noted down for security reasons, just so that they could track people in and out of the tunnels, because they have to keep a note so that there isn't any unfortunate accidents of people being on a track when a train didn't know they were there and all that kind of shit.
Menendez shot.
Yeah. So they wouldn't necessarily have needed him to be carrying a phone that they could track. They would have known his details.
The one they shot accidentally, because they were supposed to be following an arrow. They followed him into his house.
Well, they did shoot him accidentally on purpose.
On purpose, yeah. I was going to say, accidentally on purpose happens a lot.
Yeah.
You know, not just
they claim it was an accident of misidentification.
Yeah.
But the reality is they used him to make a demonstration to the rest of the public. Yeah. This is what will happen. This is IDF training of if somebody has a potential threat of being a suicide bomber, you remove the head. That's the easiest way to describe them standard operating procedures. You shoot to the head, you remove the head, because that way you guarantee they can't set off the bomb, the device. So they literally destroyed his head. And they made a point of doing that on the tube to make a statement to the viewing public.
But he was South American, for God's sake.
Yeah, but he was over here working.
But it's a psychological operation, you see. It doesn't matter who he is, what he was. It was done. And that was the point. It was carried out in that way, like you said. And that was to bring the fear and the psyop, more fear, more alerts. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, it's just to add in there was potential that he may have seen or heard or found out about something that could have connected to the details of how the bomb was laid, because the bomb wasn't put in the carriage by the supposed terrorist.
No, it was probably on the track.
Yeah, it was more likely put on the track by agents, and because of the job he did, that's what I mean. He might have seen something or heard a report or read something that indicated somebody had been doing something nefarious. Yeah, so they partly were making sure to clean up any potential loose ends, but also for that psyop effect of showing the public what they will do.
Yeah, and anybody working in the railways that knew he also works in the railways now knows to keep their mouth shut.
And run a drill on the exact same day with the exact same scenario. That's interesting.
Keelan, also Keelan Balderson has done a lot of work onto that, and the Peter Powers, wasn't it? The Peter Power
interview
operation. Wideshut.co.uk if you want to check out Keelan's work.
Yeah, and that interview I think was mainstream, wasn't it, on Sky, where the guy was saying, they interview him saying that's, and they were having a bit of a laugh about it on the day.
On the day after the event, they had him on, and he did genuinely look shocked and surprised.
Yeah,
he looked somewhat almost dumbstruck. You could see he was obviously trying to process what was going on. So he was more than likely a patsy in the same setup as well.
But then again, when the guy come in and told him what they was going to do, and also handed him that fucking great big fat envelope with about 100,000 in used 50s, yeah, of course he was surprised and happy, and excited.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there was lots of stuff at the time. I'm sure it's still there, but if you're not, that 2007 event, and we've had so many since as well. Since then, the false flag stuff and the way the political world works and how they manipulate it all with, agents all over things. We've seen stuff in New Zealand this year, and other places, mass shootings and
It's incredible, really, when you see the way that America acted upon 9/11, literally straight from the first thing. But like you say the other day with this article that Guy Scott put up, the 7/7 thing, then using it now because it's been punched into the public memory. Yeah, and they had the Menendez killing, but then it's all gone quiet for a while, and now we're going to see the surveillance state come in and say, "Oh, remember 7/7? We could have done." Now they're using it. Yeah, now they're capitalising upon it. If you see
that's one of the things that I thought of putting in my notes earlier when I was tapping up a few notes like I do. But it just seemed like it's a bit it's like talking about the obvious again kind of thing, but this last week seems to have been more general reportage on the now emanating reality of the surveillance state. So in other words, rather than like often in the past several years ago, we might have been talking about, we might have been picking through the press, looking for a snippet here and a snippet there that was an indicator of things they were going to do in the future. Now it seems that a lot of the news has become this just like rolling conveyor belt of, oh, right, now they're doing this, now they're doing this, now they're doing this. And that's a lot of what seems to have been this week. Reports like that of like, oh yeah, they're using the Wi-Fi in the tubes to track you all. It's sort of like we predicted that kind of stuff years ago, but now the news just seems to be these kind of stream of articles that are just confirmation, one after another, after another, after another. Corbett's propaganda thing was the same kind of thing. It's like, look at this stupid propaganda rubbish that they're pumping out at us. That's because now they've got to the point where they've gone past the suggestion of doing it. Now they are just doing these things. So we're getting this flow of reports of, oh yeah, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this.
Yeah, I've said in the past, so I'll be repeating myself, that they do seem to have a certain implementation time and a theory time. Like they've got a time where they tell you what they're going to do, and they do a couple of false flags or whatever, a few fake news stories, and then you get the period of implementation. Yeah, and they move along by fits and starts. They tell you what you're going to do, they do it. This is what you want, this is what you get, this is what you want, and so forth. They sort of sidestep along. There was one other thing I've been thinking about this week, yeah? And that is that, do you remember that, was it Simple Minds? They did a record called There's a Party in My Head, yeah? There's a party in my head, and I focused and made it stop. Yeah, because it's not normal to have a party of voices in your head all the time. And this is what the average person that hasn't found themselves has got. So this is why they are attracted to mainstream media. Yeah, this is why, this is why when you get somebody like Mark Pascio, or like you were saying before, people that say the same thing over and over, that it triggers them. Because the BBC always sounds fresh, even if they're telling you the same thing, because they're practiced at it. Basically, what they have this voice there. It says, look, we know there is a fog of voices inside your head. You can trust us. We will steer you. We will guide you out of that fog in your head. Yeah, but if you can find your own voice, and like, I'll tell you how it used to be for me. I'd be walking down the road, I'd see a furniture factory, and that would make an association with my old man. And I'd hear his voice literally saying, oh, nice joints on that table there. Yeah, somebody's made a good job of that. And then I could see a homeware shop, and my mother's voice. Oh, listen, that blanket's a nice pattern. And at one point I just sort of said, if you hear a voice in your head and it's not your own, stop and ask yourself, why? Why did I hear that? What triggered it? Because that's what happens. Associations trigger your subconscious, of the person that you associate that thing with, and then your subconscious generates a mimicry of their voice, making a comment. I mean, this is all happening subconscious. There is so much going on in the mind. Yeah, you have to clean it up bit by bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crackle.
I was going to say, people just talking shit, basically, tittle tattle crap, and getting in your head. And
another note on that vein with sanity. What does sanity mean as a definition? Where does the word come from? What's the etymology of it? And sanity and sanitation are interrelated. To be clean, to have a clean mind. That's basically what sanity means, is you have a clean mind.
But they're constantly pumping it full of shit, and your body as well.
Exactly. You want to have a clean mind, you got to stop letting them spray shit in your face.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem. And the also I wrote down here, cult of personality. That thing, we're still stuck in that sort of,
well, that does definitely. So jumping in here, definitely connects with what Gary's saying again. It's like they create these little sort of icons in your mind, and then when they give you the nudge, that icon starts speaking their words to you in its voice. You imagine it in your own head.
Yeah, it's that being able, like I say, it's that. But the main thing is you understand you're talking to you. You can you can differentiate between the noise and the signal, you know, in that sense. You know, it's you. You can blot it out. You do whatever, change looking at the screen, or change what you're listening to, or read a book a bit more, move, you know, or social media, as we know, is, you know, getting a little bit, let's just say it's out of control in that sense. And it's manipulating, it seems, more than ever most people these days. It's more powerful than the newspapers, radio and television, social media. That's sparking what people are doing and how people are thinking. In the, like, you know, in the 70s and 80s, 90s, it was the TV, you know, the trends for fashion would come on Good Morning or whatever, and you'd be like, this is what you wear this year. And they still do that shit now, but mostly now with the internet and social media trending, that's what's really driven or driving people these days. And the mental health issue as well still comes about with that as well, you know, where people are becoming, you know, too addicted. And the BBC running stories I did see about, you know, conquer your addiction to social media somewhere in South Korea, because South Korea have a huge problem. So, you know, it's
So,
yeah.
I know I'm just being silly, but, you know, did the article say conquer your addiction to social media while using 5G?
Yeah, exactly. And it made me think of the tube train story there with the wireless. Well, you know, will they be running 5G in the tunnels? And Jesus.
So, you know, we haven't even got past the conversation about how damaging this environment can be in terms of the social media and people's investment of themselves into it, into the illusion of themselves, the avatars that they have online and whatever, or the lives that they pretend to lead, or their aspirations to be just like the person, their favorite content creator. Yeah, we haven't even got through. We haven't even really entered into that conversation fully yet. It's going on a little bit, but people aren't really taking notice of just how much it is affecting people. So therefore affecting the society you live in, because people make up the society. And yet, despite that, they wanted to race full ahead to actually increase that technology, to make it more everywhere, doing everything. It's going to be now, so that you don't even realize that the internet is there. You know, as they put it, the internet will disappear. And instead, you'll just have this disembodied voice that you communicate with. You go, Google, tell me the answer. And the E-Christ voice will come booming back going, you have been validated today. You get an extra credit on your social credit score.
And now you can officially join the brand wagon. All aboard. Get your new brand.
They don't seem to want to have the conversation about how the social media environment, it's not just social media, because that's been used as a box deliberately, but the immersion into a fake reality, a virtualized reality, and how that is damaging the individual. And then by damaging the individual, you damage society as a whole, because hurt people hurt people. So if you're creating hurt people en masse because you're encouraging them to participate in this thing en masse, then that means you're generating a damaged society. But they don't want to even have that conversation, let alone talk about the health, you know, the biological effects of it. It just gets me. Like, you know, people are quite happy to dispute the biological effects. They go, oh, there's no scientific proof that it's harmful. It's like, well, try taking the device off your kid, mate. Take your device off the kid for 5 minutes. You tell me it's not harmful. Oh, no, but it keeps them entertained. It teaches them stuff. So you can't teach them. In other words, that's what you're saying. You're incapable or unwilling to teach the child. So instead, you just give it this tech device. Yeah, Google will teach you. I don't want to bother expending energy on you. Fuck you. Let the device teach you. Sorry, I'm ranting.
I was going to say, if anybody's got, if anybody's having any trouble, finding themselves, look, we start here,
You are here.
There you go. There you go. You are here.
On the outer spiral arm of this galaxy we call the Milky Way. Whenever life gets you down, Mrs. Brown, and things seem hard or tough, just remember that you're standing on a planet that's evolving. Yeah. Maybe I should start doing lyric recitals. I saw Pockets of the Future, Paul Romano. He did a few, but he's deliberately done them as like a piss take, silly voice thing. But I thought that was cool. But yeah, start doing some lyric recitals, because I know there's a lot of good music out there that has some very poignant and relevant lyrics. And I think sometimes they could just be recited as like spoken word rather than needing to be sung as part of
maybe get Donald Trump to do it.
Get Donald Trump to do Rocket Man. Yeah.
That's first thing that came to my mind. Fucking Captain Kirk with his cigarette.
Yeah. Shatner's
Man. Yeah.
Well, you did mention Epstein being arrested. With today was yesterday. He's been charged now, isn't he? With was it trafficking charge, sex trafficking as well, or something? I get into it more on Wednesday, but it's he's now under lock and key. But I don't know. He's always walked away, hasn't he? And you know how that system works over there.
That's what. Before we came on air, I was chatting with Gary, and we were talking about that kind of point. And it's like, yeah, it's great that they're supposedly arresting him and they're going to prosecute if they do actually do it, because this has happened repeatedly in the past, and he just seems to slip away like a slippery eel or whatever. He's got too much dirt on too many people in power. I'm more of the suspicion that this current incident is serving some kind of political narrative, and it's not genuine. They're not going to end up locking him up or anything like that. Or if they do, similar to the last lot of time he spent supposedly in jail, he'll be in some kind of exclusive section, open jail where he only has to be there for so many hours a day, and then he can fuck off back home again. Shit like that. Even ludicrous.
Even since before the Trump election, we've seen Trump manipulating a lot of the people who think they're woken up, like the Alex Jones mob, and that's why as soon as he got in, there were a lot of pedophile arrests, which in my opinion was just Trump calling a lot of high-powered people, a lot of police chiefs across the country. Do you have a pedophile investigation running at the moment? Okay, close it down and just grab whoever you can. And, because some of these operations can go on fucking years, as they try and trace more and more people. He just said, close them all down at one time and it'll look good. And this thing, everybody knows Epstein was working for Israel, right? I mean, that's who he was doing the spying for. That's why he was enticing people there, so they could be blackmailed by Mossad. And this is the Trump-Israel-Mossad connection. And they're saying, oh, well, look, if there's anybody bad on our side, like Epstein, he will be prosecuted. Now, Israel and America also, they're also collaborating on another problem, a world problem, uranium enrichment in Iran. But that's okay, So it's a kind of legitimizing Israel. In a way, that they might throw up one of their own, give away one of their own if he's done wrong.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't looked into the details of the latest incident, so I don't know how much they're actually officially saying that they're going to prosecute him. It could just be another inquiry of some kind.
And they've got the media spin doctors working their magic as well on the story, so there's all sorts of shit that they'll do to protect him. Like you say, he's a powerful man and he's got influence.
Yeah, it could be just part of the election propaganda as well. Because they've
why not just
the wind up.
Why not just bump him off? Why just not get rid of him? Why? In this, in that sense, it's like, if he's that much of a problem for them, and he's got that much dirt on them, then you surely, like in old-fashioned style, they just off him,
No, it's got auto fucking leak accounts around the world and shit like that. I don't know.
Oh right, okay, probably, yeah. Like if he goes, it all gets, well.
Send him to the Saudi Arabian embassy in Turkey They're good at shredding evidence.
They literally, yeah, and the person.
I mean, there must be a lot of deal making that goes on behind the scenes in America, but basically, if Trump arrests 10,000 pedophiles, he can go to war with Syria. Yeah, 50,000, he can go to a war with Iran. Yeah, 100,000, and they're going to have to close down the Pentagon. You know, so it's a fine line that he's walking here. You know,
yeah,
he gets that core support staying with him, and they're very vocal.
Yeah. And you see they're building up the nice one again about the enriched uranium. They're going to build a bomb. They're going to build a bomb. You keep seeing that every a look, you know, from online, whatever stories popping up. But that seems to be, you know, in there, you know, just planting seeds again, you know, for the next event.
Zionist propaganda. I agree on the connections between the two of them and those background connections. It does seem more like it's just for political reasons. So we'll see. I hope they do genuinely prosecute him and that he gets locked up. But
well, we see over here in this country what they do with scandals and things. You just get endless inquiry, and normally they're dead. So, you know, it's that sort of thing. Whitewash, cover up, same sort of rhetoric, same sort of behavior we see all the time. Just no surprise. I mean, Weinstein, what's happening with him? I know he was charged with something, but that's, you know.
He's done some, hasn't he done some out of court settlements and stuff like that? So they've been basically whittling away at the people claiming against him, and he's just staying out of public sight for a while. You know?
Yeah.
He'll stay in the background until they've got a nice political position for him to take up.
Yeah.
What's that you're showing, Gary?
I'm not sure. I mean, it could be photoshopped, but probably not coming from this girl. Yeah. That's French policeman, yeah, one of the yellow vests demonstrations, I would imagine. And like, you know, people just go along. We're ordinary people, you know, these are the children's future that we're marching for, and things have gotten a bit out of hand, and somebody's managed to capture this image. A little kid almost getting clubbed by a cop. It's probably the angle and that, yeah, but it doesn't look good. But yeah, there are a lot of different cops, and this girl, she's a Dutch girl, she's a bit scattered. I think is an old word you used to use to describe girls like that.
It's not good to make judgments on stuff like that without more context. No?
And she's usually pretty good. And she goes in, like she's been following the things in Toulouse, and you know, on a Saturday, you know, she'll start live streaming, and she's like, "Oh, today there won't be too many trouble," because she now recognises the different chiefs of police that march along with the police. Yeah, she says, "Oh, that one, he's a normal gendarme, he's be okay." And then another week, "Oh, that big fucker is from the CRS riot police. There might be trouble this week." So she's getting to know the police who are on duty.
This is all part of a general atmosphere that's all across Europe as well, other parts of the world as well, like Hong Kong. But
yeah, I know that they've been at it again. They've been more trouble.
It's a spirit of rebellion, I suppose you could call it, but on a general sense, it's the protest against the shitty governments that seem to be in power at the moment.
Like things are shit, you know, they are shit for most people. You know, they're not great, are they? That's why, like you say, we're getting all this happening now, and the French don't give up. And there's how many weeks is that now? 34,
I think.
34.
Oh, you know.
I thought something might kick off on the 32nd week, just because of it being the 32nd. Yeah, but
I didn't read up on the Hong Kong situation. I saw that 60 people have now been arrested, and I thought, what a shame, yeah, because they know that they're all on camera. So you see this collective group of self-organised to put umbrellas over the tops of the ones who are organising the battering ram, so the cameras won't be able to see them. So you got this, like, it's like the old Viking wars where you got a shield wall made out of umbrellas and cops can't see.
But it's so like it's one-sided, isn't it? I mean, you got the cops on one side, or the militarized police on one side with their weapons, and in Hong Kong are they armed up? I'm sure they're armed. And on the other side, you've got students with, like you say, throwing bits and bob, you know. But it's no contest when they really ramp it up.
Yeah.
You know, just many will die, or they'll just round up the ones they've rounded up already, sling them in jail forever, And that would be the message to the rest of them, just to go back and be a good little slave, thank you very much, while the Chinese just finally move in and round up the rest of the dissidents over time, and they'll just do it over time.
Yeah.
And that's
Chinese
how
they're very good at patience.
Yeah, they'll wait. They'll get their moments. Their island. They'll come in and they'll do what they need to do, and turn it into the rest of their crazy country. So the people there, you'll see, maybe people leaving. I don't know what the population of Hong Kong is. It's quite a small island, but I think it's quite heavily populated, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a few million.
Oh, there was a lot of news stories about that. People wanting to leave just after.
Yeah, wanting to get out. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember that? Whoa, that was that was a bit scary. Oh yeah, I just saw something on Twitter. The son of the South Korean foreign minister has defected to North Korea. I mean, obviously the guy's, he's been going to some health farm in the mountains, and he enjoys being thin as fuck and freezing all the time, yeah.
Maybe it was the Trump. Maybe it was the Trump influence or something, because he met him, didn't he?
Yeah. That's a good reason to defect, isn't it?
Just say hello to the chat room again. Trying to scroll back up as far as it'll let me. If you comment, it'll only go so far. So if you commented earlier on, I might miss you. Sorry, I can't see it now in the chat room. Authentic Human Programming, hello, thanks for joining us. And Mandy Diamond Media Mogul, hello. And Super Leads, hello, mate. Scrolling, James, hello. I see you in the chat. Gypsy Soul, hello. Gypsy Soul, hello. I'm scrolling down. Uni Black Sister, hello. Sorry, keep saying the same caveat. If I miss you out, sorry, I'm scrolling quickly and it doesn't show me the entirety of the chat box because it cuts it off after a certain cash amount. Eman Pradama, hello. Quiz London, hello. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for using the chat room for what it was meant for. Roberto, hello. It's not the Matrix, it's more like a binary dominatrix. The human paradox I find at times, it's good to detox, definitely. Thinking negative ain't a positive way to live, yeah.
I did mention Mark Asher, didn't I?
Yeah.
I think you might have, you made a quick reference to him. Right?
I caught bits of his most recent hangout. They're about 3 hours long, but he does do some very good stuff. Yeah. And what I did hear him saying is that, people aren't going to hear this from me. They're going to hear it from you. He said, I just go straight in on this information. A lot of people won't want to hear me. Or they'll, know my history. Or, basically that's the sort of thing that he was saying. So it's going to be up to you. And it's a really easy system to understand, left or right. And he lays it out, yeah? The different ways they both end up being the same thing, basically.
And it's true in the sense of you can't constantly need a singular leader to host all the answers, or have that expectation that there will be a singular person or a singular leader that suddenly pops up that's got all the answers and he's going to fix everything for you and all. It doesn't work that way, primarily because most of what we're often talking about, you have to realize for yourself. Nobody can stick their hands in your head and give you the realization. You have to do a certain amount of this figuring out for yourself. So you're certainly right, absolutely, in that sense, right? And I know we've talked about that kind of stuff for many years, but also in the way this environment is being manipulated and controlled now, it is even more so reliant, the movement of the information is even more so reliant on you, on everybody, doing it for yourselves and passing on the information yourself. And that doesn't mean you have to become a YouTube personality. It doesn't mean you have to write a book or have a website or make a video. No, it's just you pass it on when you're talking to people. in a way that you want to, you know, in a way that you feel connects, etc., etc. Time and a place for everything. But yeah, it's got to be passed from hand to hand. It can't be one person carrying the whole thing.
No, that's not how it works. Like you say, it's got to be. It's no, like say, well, that just goes down the same route we got now, where you got a leader, or you want someone to be the, you know, the one who makes the decision for you. Yeah, yeah.
You just replace the face on the throne.
Yeah,
you don't get your own throne. Everybody should have their own throne, but doing it with the expectation of a leader means all you end up doing is putting a new face on the throne.
I still follow this channel on Twitter called Nests, Not Nets. Yeah, it's against the netting, but it's kind of spread and it's connected with a lot of other people. You know, wildflowers. Now, he put up an article the other day where about 7 councils have saved themselves 70,000 by not cutting the roadside verges until late August. Yeah, so that wildflowers can grow there. It encourages bees and insects, and it saves them a lot of money as well. You know, and it's other things like that. Now, sometimes it gets a bit silly. Somebody wanting a petition against a particular netting on a particular building in fucking, you know, Brighton, whatever, you know, seafront. And I think those, you know, a petition for every fucking bird that's being netted somewhere, it gets a bit ridiculous. But this is where a lot of the climate activists have said, well, you know, we're not going to go and get arrested, and, you know, all this climate warming's great, but, you know, this is our community. These are our hedgerows, and this is something we can actually do something about. And there seems to be a lot of people getting into that now. Yeah, and those are exactly the people you can share information about glyphosate with, and 5G. Yeah, that council, that document that went out to all the councils saying we're going to be implementing 5G. We don't want any tall hedges and too many tall trees. They might have to be cut down to help the signal. These are the people to give it to. Yeah, and don't mention 7.7. I did once, but I think I got away with it.
Well, that's, I mean, there's a time and a place, and that again is something that can't readily be taught to others. You know, you have to learn your own abilities of being able to communicate with people, and knowing a good time to say something or not is one of those abilities of communication, good communication. Yeah.
And when people see the physical destruction of their community, like the trees and like you say, the hedgerows and things like that under potential threat, they'll do something, or they start to get interested. Maybe it's too late, but you know, like you say, it's like by the time they sort of realise it's happening and it's being rolled out. But let's hope in the countryside it doesn't get here.
Hello,
I think it is.
Hello to Barry. Sorry, I just got to scrolling down to the, as far as the chat goes. Hello, Barry to Goose. Yeah, Saturday night, if he's back on, I think he should be, as far as I know, because he said he was only be away for a couple of weeks. Check out Steve Tagoose channel on a Saturday night, the mystery show, 10 p.m. GMT. Like I said, he's been away for a couple of weeks, but I think he'll be back this week. But keep an eye on his channel, and you'll see it come up. He'll post it when it's going live. And Apple's asking me something about black sheep. I'm not going to tell anybody anything. I'm sure that James is quite capable of deciding for himself. I don't know what really you're talking about. It's completely out of context to me in terms of what you've been chatting about in the chat. So, no, I'm not going to tell him anything. But yeah, hello everyone in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening to us for nearly a couple of hours, near enough.
Thanks, Cookie.
Is there anything else you want to add in?
No. Well, Wednesday night we'll be back.
Yeah, Wednesday night reality chat.
That's it. And yeah, all is good.
Okay, let's go and search for lost sheep. You don't have to search for them; they come and find you themselves eventually. And that's another part of this whole thing, you know, and talking about the repeating and telling people that you're bored of them and stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm bored. I'm bored. It's like,
go and find something better to do then. There's plenty of things you could be doing other than telling me about how you were bored. Oh, you want me to make it better for you? To give you some entertainment. Yeah, okay. I'll give you a big book to read. Anyway, okay, I think that's enough ranting for tonight. Thanks for listening to us, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Keep talking and keep thinking until they make it illegal. We have noticed you're using an ad blocker. Yeah. So well done. You noticed. Maybe that means you'll change your style a bit and actually respond to what the customer base wants rather than just trying to force stuff upon people.
Yeah.
Well, there's the gay gnomes. Anyway, before I start ranting about that again, thanks a lot. Catch you soon, folks. Cheers. Press the right button, not that one.
They look like those ice lollies, don't they? What they used to be called? Zoom ice lollies, didn't they?
Yeah.
I'm clicking it.